Okay, good morning, everyone. We're going to call this meeting to order on Monday, June 15, 2026, for the Village Council work session. There's no one remote, so we don't need to consider really allowing remote participation, do we?
Nope.
We good there? Okay. Also, I want to welcome Lehman Bryce. This is his first meeting with us here in the Village of Marvin as an interim manager. We're really glad you're here. We know you bring a ton of experience, and thanks for being here for us. We really appreciate you. The adoption of the agenda. I think there's one or two changes we want to make, or no? Pass?
At least from my standpoint, it's fine.
Okay.
As is.
Anybody else on that? Okay. And then the adoption of the previous minutes from the June 1st, 2026 council regular meeting.
So I move that we adopt the previous minutes.
All those for?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Section E is closed session. Recess into closed session per North Carolina General Statute 143.318.11A, 3, to consult with the attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege and to give instructions to Chris and Victoria Comiskey versus the Village of Marvin, / Kim Vandenberg, 25 CV 000445890 and 3:25 CV 00087 FDW DCK.
Someone just say so moved.
So moved.
All those for?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, we adjourn for closed session. Thank you.
Do we need our pads?
By the way, the governor excused everyone from work today because the Canes won, so we should all go home.
They won last night.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be right back.
All right.
And we are right on time. Oh, more than anything, thankfully, he's getting a more senior guy involved.
Enrique's,
It's like, couldn't you have told us this a month
last name, I'm trying to remember her first name. Henrique's that represent, I actually, yeah. And
So do we get the motion to reconvene?
Jane piggybacked with me, and then basically, this was.
Austin, does a motion need to be made to reconvene?
You just reconvene, because you already made the motion. So you're gonna say we're.
Okay, gang, thanks for your patience. We're going to reconvene after coming out of closed session. Our post-closed session action which means upon returning into open session, we approved suspending, finalizing a settlement agreement regarding the Comiskey lawsuits pending further analysis. There's just a couple things that we need to learn before we move forward on that. So next piece, G, updates to the previous public comment inquiries. All right, we're going to get into presentations. The first presentation is to consider the approval of the proposed historical signs for the Houston Ross Park, presented by Reverend McKinney and Heidi Williamson. Welcome.
Oh, turn your mic on.
There we go. Pulling it up now. Again, good morning, Mayor Barber and Mayor Pro Tem Martin. Good morning to you all and staff and the other council members. We talked about some things that we got back from staff and the council members and Parks and Recreation on how we go forward with changing just some little nuances to the signage that we have here. I was waiting on my cousin to get here, but she hadn't gotten here yet, Heidi. So he's going to pull up all of that information so that we can see it and everyone can. Okay. So are these the changes that we have also in here, or is it just everything changed? The latest version? Okay, cool. Looks good. So we talked about, is this the first sign? This is the very first one. Okay. All right. Here it is. Waiting on you, Miss Heidi. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're here. Yeah. So we're here talking about the signage and the changes that have been made.
Okay.
So I'm going to let you take it over from here.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow. Okay, I'm ready.
You ready?
Yeah. So this first slide encompasses all the family members, and a lot of them have Grandma Mitty's grandchildren, and so it's just a conglomerate of all of us, and just showing the Houston Ross lineage. Okay. So the involuntary apprenticeship talks about right after slavery, apprenticeship came in, and it was lawful, unjust, and here it has where our grandmother Rosa had Bob Ross, and he was 4 years old at the time, and an apprenticeship by the Ross family was written for him, and he was to stay there until he was 21 years of age, from age 4 to 21, and then upon leaving, he would be given a Bible, a new suit, and they had $6 on that apprenticeship, but they crossed that out, and he would be awarded $20. And so once he got to the Ross family, I'm going to say they fell in love with him because the Ross sisters they have their ages there, 44 and 36, and then Dennis was 38. So they were grown adults, and my grandfather was 4 years old. And this is where the apprenticeship, I would say, turned into a family, where they treated him, he being a child, as a family. I mean, what can you do at age 4 is what I'm thinking. But as he grew older, he actually did a lot more in the family, and a trust between he and the Ross family was built where he ran like a lot of the business for the Ross family. So this involuntary apprenticeship talks about that. The two families entwined, it pretty much goes to what I said before. Where the Ross sisters, the siblings, moved to a grand home off Newtown Road, and that house has now moved.
To, at the county line.
Yes, it's still existing, but they moved, and it just talks, this one talks about the families entwined, and in 1903, the Ross sisters invested in my great-great-grandmother, Mittie Bell, who is Bob Ross' daughter. He had a daughter, and her mother's name is Alice, and her picture is also on there. So this picture shows Grandma Mittie, my grandfather, Bob Ross, my grandmother, Alice, and the Ross sisters. So they're all intertwined, and Grandma Mittie and Bob Ross lived in the Ross home. An unexpected inheritance talks about the court case where the Ross sisters actually left in their will everything to my grandfather and his daughter, which was 800 acres of land. It was contested by the cousins because the Ross sisters had distant cousins, but law prevailed, and our family inherited 800 acres, which made my grandmother and grandfather the richest family, one of the richest families in this area. And I think Butchie said it last time when he talked about love, and the message that I got from him when he was talking to you all then was that Satan meant it for bad, but God meant it for good, because it's nothing good about slavery, apprenticeship, but love prevailed, and the Ross sisters left all of their property, not just land, but also jewelry. Everything they owned, they left to our family. And so this just has the detail of the land of what they owned in an 800-acre vicinity of Union County. Values of faith and education, that's been strong and rooted in our family. From an education perspective, the Ross sisters did send my grandmother to Livingstone College. She did have to come home due to pregnancy, and that's not in there, so that might be something new. She was pregnant and she came home, and she actually had the child in the Ross home. And that child was stillborn and buried actually right next door in the garden of the Ross family. So that's part of the educational aspects of it. A lot of us have graduated from college. Some Ivy League colleges, we do have family members that have graduated from Harvard. I myself am a mountaineer. I'm proud to be an Appalachian mountaineer myself. I'll just say that. But yeah, so this talks about the educational part, and then faith, which is very strong in our family. The Marvin AME Zion Church, the first church was built right down the street because of segregation. The sisters did provide land before they died to build a church for black families. And then on Crane Road, Marvin Church is expanded and is thriving and doing well. And so this is what that talks about, just the whole educational aspects of the Ross family and what they've instilled and provided to us, and then our strong faith in Jesus Christ that continues to get us through day to day now. Okay. Now, the Houston Ross family legacy, this has my grandma Mittie and my grandpa Tom. and their children, being my grandmother, Florence, and then my uncles, DC, Uncle Patty Cake. I can't even see that other person. That's his daddy that just walked in.
Robert Houston, the Hall.
Yeah. And then Uncle Collins, and then Irvin was the youngest child. And we just wanted to show that it's the Houston Ross family legacy. And you see here where a lot of them have a lot of children, and then even down after that, there are more children. And so we have grown tremendously, and a lot of us still live in Union County. And that's about it on that one. I think it's that. That's the last one? Okay. So I wrapped it up. I didn't talk. What'd I leave out?
You did good. You did good.
Okay.
Yeah. So the common theme of this is I wanted the mayor and staff and council members to know, yes, it says the Houston Ross Park, but I wanted everyone to know it's not two families. It is one family. It is one family. And one family should be represented. Yes, the Ross sisters they're the cornerstone of everything that happened to our great-great-grandfather, Bob Ross, and then Grandma Mitty, his daughter, Mitty Bell. But it's one family. It is one family because, again, as Heidi touched on, the whole take on this here is that, yes, the apprenticeship was just like slavery. You know, they were free, but it was just like slavery. And then love came about. And love covers a multitude of things. And this is a community that I want the community, we, the family, want the community to know that a community of love existed then in a time, in a climate, in a culture to where that wasn't the common and the norm. But here we are now today. We have an opportunity to revitalize that with each member of this community, to know that we are, as though we are different and we have our different views, our different religions, our different political stances, we are a community first. And the community is one that should always know that love will cover a multitude of things, and we can come together and we can accomplish so much more than what the Ross sisters ever thought would happen through what they gave to my great-grandfather Bob Ross and his daughter.
That was wonderful. Thank you. It's a great legacy, and we look forward to celebrating it with you with the park.
So what I need from council is, do you all have any requested changes to the signs? What you've got on your consent agenda today is the approval for the purchase of the actual sign structures that'll go outside. Those will be, once ordered, that's a 4 to 6 week turnaround time. And then once those go in, I want to go out and measure everything very carefully. And then I can order these through our regular sign vendor. And they have a very quick turnaround time. So I'm hoping that we can have all the signs in by August, far ahead of the actual ribbon cutting in September.
Like 24 by 36.
24 by 36?
Yeah.
Huh? Color.
Yeah, I did want to share too that there was, the working group that Angel kind of headed, along with some of the family folks and things like that. But also PRG board has been represented through that process as well. And there was a lot of kind of feedback to and from the families and recommendations, and really just want to say thank you to all the folks that have worked on this, including the Marvin Historical Society and so forth. But I just want to make sure everybody knew that PRG is kind of seen everything, provided their feedback. There may be some contextual things, but like Austin said, this is really for the signs and getting all that approved and everything now. But even the latest versions of it, if there wasn't a change, I think overall people feel very good about what's been provided today.
Last thing I need from you guys. The original color of the signs, or this purple you see here, I'm not sure why it's not displaying in this file. I initially recommended that, that it would go to a green, which is in our branding color palette, but it's your decision at the end of the day what color you want the borders of the signs to be. The purple is historical with the AME Zion Church, and the green is in our color palette. So I will leave that to you guys.
Well, that's what was going to be my recommendation, is that if we were choosing between the two colors, the green, just the graphics of it looks nice.
I'm going to try to get it to open again because I'm not sure why it's, they're very.
the signs too printed out on
All drafts. All drafts, yeah, are this size.
Okay.
That's a 24 by 36.
Yeah, that'll be nice. Thank you.
So I just need you guys to let me know which color to order.
You want to take a vote right now on the color, since we're all here?
Just share your thoughts, then I'll have a motion ready for you.
Who likes green?
Well, I think from a branding perspective, we should, I mean. it
Yeah,
is a
stay
village.
consistent with the
Yeah,
branding, but it just so
yeah.
happens
Yeah.
that everyone wants this to really be consistent with the branding
Yeah,
and do green.
as the marketing hat here.
Yeah, yeah,
I would stick with it,
yep.
so.
I know that PRG's worked on this. I had a question about the number of signs. Didn't we have a discussion about how many we were going to have in the park?
Yeah.
Do you want to take it, John?
Yeah, so there were a couple of different thoughts around the signs, whether you have a series of kind of individual signs that may either run along the pathway or some other area, kind of a horseshoe shaped or something like that in a more kind of specific area so that people can kind of see and go to one by one, versus, we've seen in some places, if you've ever been to Kingsley, they have like kind of a larger board that may have 4 or 5 signs, kind of up in one larger area. I think in the end, everybody decided, as they actually kind of got together and went out and kind of walked the area and so forth, that the multiple signs, given the size that they were, would be fine, whereas a larger structure would kind of take away some more of what we're trying to do with the park, and it would shield kind of some of the woods and the path that we have in the back and stuff. So that's why, they did consider the sizes, the number, and the types, and, I think there's been good consideration of where we ended up with that.
The signs? Yeah.
Well, hold on.
Well, they are metal.
Two quick things. So as regarding the number of signs, there's 6 signs here. The quote in your agenda packet is for 10. What we would do is 6 of those would go on site here, 4 we'd hold in reserve for future use, say at Marvin Eford, because we've talked about doing signage there. The signs themselves, these will be inserts that you will put into the actual structures.
Okay.
The material, the final material, I'm not sure yet. It will, whatever it is, it will be UV protected, weather resistant, hopefully more than just weather resistant. The cost of these themselves are not expensive. I'm not sure if it's plastic, but like these will likely be some form of UV protected laminate printed over a thin sheet of probably a metal that we can just slide straight in, and there will be a cover over it. I don't know the exact material, what the cover would be.
Oftentimes, they may do like vinyl or some sort of that will be laid over a metal sheet, and and attached to it that way.
Did that answer all the questions? Sorry. Sure. If that is everything, I am looking for a motion to approve the dark green historical signs for Houston Ross Park as presented.
So moved.
All those for?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. it
We are
passes
very
unanimously.
excited to get
Great.
these in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item up for business is reports and updates. The manager's report.
I think first up we should.
It's probably pretty brief, right? You found out where the front door is and where your office is, so that's good. I hear you.
I did have one quick thing
Yeah.
here, just to let you all know, for the manager search we are posting today. I've got the materials. We're going to start getting those out, getting those posted to the many sites today, and hopefully finished by tomorrow. So we will keep you all abreast of that process. And Timeline, like I said, as timeline goes, you're looking at interviews in July and beginning in July and hopefully an offer by mid-August.
Great.
Can I say something too?
Yeah.
I talked to all of council, and so you can let Central Ina know. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have a group of 3 of us do round 1 of interviews, and then they'll decide who they want to bring back. And then the other 3 of us will do round 2.
The other 3 will do a second round.
Yes.
Okay.
So everybody will be involved, and then Joe will be talking to the second round, like one-on-one as well.
Okay.
And
So
then-
I would need to know how y'all are going to break up those 2 groups.
So it's going to be, group 2 is going to be Fred, Bob,
Which Bob?
Markleese, and Tom.
That's
Me, you, and John.
Okay, I'll make that happen. And I'll let you guys know if I have any other questions. Pretty smooth process, though. so.
Yeah. So I know she needed, like, names.
Mhm.
So if
I'll
you
send
could-
that today.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Up next is we got the planners report.
Good morning,
You're up,
council. One quick thing, during the transition, we've been in the process of trying to find an asphalt vendor for that contract. We did have an existing contract, and Christina our engineer originally had some projects for that vendor. There was some miscommunication. The vendor never communicated back. I reached out to him. Now I got them on the schedule. So this Thursday and Friday, they'll be doing some, I think it's crack sealing on these roads, and I'm just letting you know, so also the public. But it's for Red Twig, Highland Forest Drive, Oak Bluff Court, Brookmont Lane, Painted Turtle Court, and Turkey Hunt Court. And like I said, the vendor will be out there Thursday, Friday doing the crack seal, and then on Painted Turtle, they'll be doing a mill and fill for a portion. And all that was already budgeted for and all that for this fiscal year.
Just one question I have about that and the difficulties we've been having with the asphalt contract. And, I know we've done some things with the waste service disposal that we did an extension. Would there be any interest in discussing with the current vendor some sort of an extension with the current contract, given the challenges that we've had? Understanding that, costs go up and things happen more, but they might have a vested interest, since they're already getting that work, to do something at least cooperatively with us until we have a better position to get responses to an RFP.
So our current vendor originally was Red Clay. Red Clay sold to what is now Aviator Paving, and so that company and a lot of their staff went with that transition as well. My understanding is that the previous owner, or the one that originally negotiated the contract for Red Clay, we got some pretty good rates out of that. That was part of the reason why Aviator felt like some of this was financially not feasible for them, even though we had an agreement and we held them to it, luckily. And so that's something I can try to ask if they're interested in. I know that Jill's reached out to you reached out to one community, right? And then, Lehman, did you ever get a chance to talk to Waxhaw?
I have not talked to Scott yet, but I do have a call.
Okay, so we're looking to try to, and I spoke with our engineer on it as well, and there's potentially some things we can do in that RFQ and how we have it set up to potentially seek better interest. The problem is with these on-call contracts, it's sometimes not feasible the size of works and size of municipality we are, but we do need something. And we do have our concrete vendor, Union Environmental, that also could do the work, is my understanding, like in an emergency situation. But for some of these like preventative maintenance and repair stuff, like this is why we're trying to work and get this agreement, or get a vendor to get an agreement. But I'll mention that to Aviator to see if they want to rebid now that we have a better understanding of where they're at.
Thank you.
And then other than that, just wanted to also, the Strategic Economic Development group met last week. We have scheduled our community meeting. Lucas, what was that date on that?
Our community workshop will be taking place on August 11th. It's going to be from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
And it'll be here at Village Hall, and we'll start advertising that as well. Other than that, that's all I got.
Just a quick question. Are the neighborhoods that are getting some pavement work done, have they been notified? Have people?
That's, like I said, all this kind of occurred last week when it kind of was brought to my attention where we were at. I reached out, and luckily we were able to get them to get it on their schedule pretty quick. So I was just notified this morning that they're coming out this Thursday, Friday. However we would like to do that, I can try to reach out. I mean, that's Marvin Creek and
Yeah.
Oak Brook.
Just through the HOA, I guess you could probably communicate it and let them cascade it. Is that the easiest way for you, or?
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. I mean, for the most part, all the residents along those roads should still have access to their homes. Painted Turtle, I think, might have been the only one that they'll still have access, but since they're doing the mill and fill and stuff, I just wanted to make sure that's a little bit more time consuming. And then our engineer basically also said, like, from a driving standpoint, yeah, you can drive on them after they tack it, but they might not want to, just so it doesn't get on their tires and make the road, and driveways. So our engineer's meeting with the vendor at 1 o'clock today, so I can also see what the vendor has planned to make sure that any of those property owners are also properly notified.
Yeah, let's make sure we notify the property owners directly. I wouldn't want to rely on the HOAs to do the notification.
All right, so.
Yeah,
However we do that, but
I was about to say, the only thing that I could do is potentially send a letter out today, and it might get to them by Thursday, but then that's only a 24-hour notice. So I'm hoping I can try to, like I said, reach out to the HOAs just to push it out to those residents today, just a quick ASAP. But I can also see if the vendor potentially has any type of door hangers or anything, and potentially can go put those out. If not, we can maybe make those and just go do that that way.
let's do what we can. I just,
Okay.
as a standing rule, I wouldn't want to rely on the HOAs to do our notifications for us.
Okay. Next piece is Parks and Recreation report, or we're done with planning?
There was one other thing.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
On your consent agenda, I just wanted to make council aware, there is a resolution of intent for a right-of-way abandonment for the Elysian Field subdivision. This is the first step in the process. Essentially, what you guys are adopting is that an intent to close the road. You're not necessarily closing the road. It's the subdivision. It was similar to the Windmore last year, where the roads were publicly dedicated. They have not been accepted by the village. The developer still owns all the lots. Subdivision's got 10 to 15 years of history. However, he wants to remain it to keep them a privately maintained, so then they can also then gate the subdivision. So that's on your consent agenda. Essentially, what the next steps are is adopt that resolution. The village will have to advertise 4 consecutive weeks for basically that resolution of intent, and then you will hold a public hearing at your August meeting to consider the closure of the road. This one's pretty straightforward because, like I said, it's not that you have like 9 different individual property owners. It's 9 lots, but it's all still in the same developer's name, so it's one current owner.
So there's just one owner. That's the one thing.
That's
because
correct.
Typically, when we do abandonment like that, you look ideally for 100%, so.
Correct, and so it is 100%, and the goal is to get this completed before he starts marketing and selling the lots. But that's all I got now.
Okay. All right, great, thank you. We'll move on to I.3, Parks and Recreation Report.
Yeah, so I don't really have a whole lot, just a reminder that our next car show is going to be Saturday, July 18th at the park. It usually does draw a pretty good crowd. It's been a great event each time we have it. We do it spring and fall, well, summer and fall. So we're going to start promoting that on social media, but if you guys are planning to attend, I know some of you went last time, I really just kind of need to know if we might have a potential quorum so that Austin can put a notice out. So just kind of.
I don't do notices for social events. It's not necessary.
Oh, okay, cool. And then save the date for the National Night Out, which we're wrapping up the planning for that. That is Tuesday night, August 4th. Hope to have all of you there. Again, doesn't sound like we need a quorum notice for that one, Austin. We're good? Okay. So just save the dates, and I hope to see you guys there.
Do you have a time for the car show?
Yes. It's from about 8 to noonish, so it starts pretty early. And then 5 o'clock for a national night out.
I know that the car show's always been a success for us. Just ballpark, what kind of revenue do we generate from that?
We don't generate any
we don't
because
charge
we don't
anything for it?
actually throw the event. Someone else does.
Okay.
They just utilize our park to have it there, and we just draw a crowd. So it's kind of like, we look at it like it's a fun sort of amenity/event that our community gets to enjoy that we have to do zero for. And then I will say, Mayor, I did send you an email. We have another car show in September. This is more of like a British classic cars type vibe. I've sent you an email. They're looking to see if you can participate, so I will need an answer from you on that when you get a chance.
Do you have the date on that in September?
I do. That one is Saturday, September 19th.
Saturday, September 19th. I'll get right back to you on that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's all I got, friends.
All right, great. Coffee with council debrief?
Yeah, Angel and I had coffee with council on a Saturday morning, and there was nobody attended. So.
So we had coffee.
All right, great. On the consent agenda, we already addressed one of the items.
The motion to approve is presented.
So moved.
All those for?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that motion passes to approve the consent agenda. Section K, unfinished business, consider appointment of the applicant to the Planning Board and Board of Adjustment alternate for unexpired terms.
I would like to nominate Tamara, is it Savoy?
Got it, okay. Any other nominations? Hearing none, need a vote. I need everyone to state their candidate.
Yeah, I just wanted to say she was one of the folks that I did recommend last time as well. I had a good conversation with her based upon her experience, I think 7 years or so with the Tullamore Board, and think she's a very qualified candidate and would be supportive of her.
Any other nominations? Or support for that nomination? Okay.
All for Tamara, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, well, congratulations to, Tamara Savoy for joining the planning board. Section K2, the discussion of the Heritage at Marvin Trail.
So I wanted to talk about this because several previous meetings ago, we had people come and talk about how they really wanted the trail. And then the last meeting that we had more residents come saying they didn't want the trail. And so I'm wondering if it might behoove us to, I know Hunter's been working on, quotes and whatnot, but I wonder if it might behoove us to wait until, I think it's August, when the builder hands over the HOA to the residents, and let them decide as an HOA what they want, and then we do, at that point, whatever the majority wants.
I do want to clarify, it's my understanding that the developer won't actually transfer it over to the HOA for probably at least another year.
Oh, okay.
Potentially in August, they would begin the closeout process with
I
us.
see. Okay.
But they won't actually transfer it over to the actual property owners until they're closed out with us. Also, everything's closed out and transferred with DEQ with post-construction, so it typically,
So it's longer than that, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
so.
So I had a conversation with the developer about this, and it was a hot potato for him.
Yeah.
And that's how it came to us. And what if we just, does their HOA currently exist, or that won't exist for a year?
The HOA exists, so every time a final plat's been recorded, typically they go ahead and establish the HOA through the Articles of Incorporation and Declaration. And the developer itself is just the HOA at this time. So it's not actually been transferred to the actual property owners, it's still, but the HOA as an organization exists, yes, that's correct.
I mean, what if we give it to the HOA?
What if we give it to the HOA?
Yeah, like they gave us a fee in lieu because it was a hot potato that they didn't want to have to figure out.
Yeah.
And then we just give it back,
Give them the money, the fee in lieu back?
and then the HOA can decide.
I don't think that's something that we can do, because once a fee in lieu has been provided to the village, it's for public use. And if you're giving it back to the HOA, at that point, you're giving it back to a private organization. Is that correct?
So the fee in lieu was accepted, and it was accepted on the terms to be used for any greenway trail construction, not necessarily the exact trail construction for that portion. It was just for any public use trail. The trail and easement itself is also publicly dedicated, so it's, and when we get to Broadmoor, it'd be something similar, like when they come to close out, like we would accept that easement and the paved portion as well as their roads. And so from a legal standpoint, unless we abandon that easement, it's the village's easement to then construct.
So if I understand it right, then we have that easement regardless of whether or not we spend the $160-some-odd thousand.
Correct. It's publicly dedicated,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, and I think it's only about $28,000 is what the fee in lieu was. The other thing is that in terms of the routing of it within the HOA common area there, Hunter is currently working on having some sections of it moved to, number one, in some areas, respect some of the backyards, in areas where it gets closer to move it a little bit more to the center of the common open space, but then also to be able to route it so that we can preserve as much understory and larger trees and things like that. So, doing something like that is typically easier to do, with the developer at the time of doing it. And I think that's part of what he's currently working out now in addition to the quotes.
Yeah, and so currently, yes, we're in the process of getting quotes. I actually met one of the trail builders that we've used in the past out there, I believe it was last week. And my thought is ultimately staff's getting quotes. That will be brought to council. Council will then award it, and then, you will vote to award the quote and enter into a contract. At that time, if council does not, let's say those quotes come back $40,000 higher than the estimate that we got for the fee in lieu, council doesn't have to necessarily move forward with actual construction of that. That's when you guys would be able to actually make that formal vote, and it could be cost, it could be, residents, and so that's up to you guys to decide at that time. But ultimately, what we're trying to do from a staff level is get those quotes, and then, yes, work on going ahead and getting the easement relocated to a better route. So then either if it's this upcoming fiscal year or sometime in the future, we already have those documents in place to then, if the village decides to move forward with construction, we don't have to worry about it at that point.
I'm just personally not comfortable doing anything when it seems like the neighborhood is divided over it. And so that's why I'm bringing this up.
Well, I think that the reason, my opinion is, if you look at the neighborhood, it's similar to a blizzard. And I think they need a trail desperately. And I know there are a couple people that don't want the trail, but I think they don't want the trail because it's intrusive in their backyard. And I think that we can mitigate those concerns if we landscape properly. But we need to find out what the real issue is. And I think we need to work with the HOA to find out, do they want the trail, don't they want the trail, and how do they appease the people that have concerns about privacy? And then we act upon that and their input, not about what we think particularly.
It sounds like this trail was heavily advertised to buyers that were purchasing in this neighborhood as well. So it's not like it's a surprise trail like we've had in other neighborhoods where residents are like, this wasn't something I knew about. So I'm hesitant.
Well, we actually talked to the developer about that when we met last week with him, and he said that in the beginning it was, and then it wasn't. And then they stopped marketing it. So I don't know what the expectations are for I mean, I know some people want it, some people don't, but personally, I would just feel more comfortable getting feedback from the residents once they take over their HOA as to what the majority wants us to do, and then move from there.
So are you asking to put this on hold until next year when the HOA takes over?
I think we should table it, yeah, I do. I think we should table it until they take over. That's just my opinion.
table quotes, like the whole process, or just,
So what are
because
we tabling?
next year the quotes will be even potentially higher, so I'm just curious what we should,
I mean, again, I personally don't want to do anything if the majority don't want this. It's their neighborhood, so, but we won't know until they take over and they talk to their people, so I don't want to have y'all spinning your wheels, you know, doing stuff, if it's going to change significantly a year from now.
I don't know if I want to go a whole year. I feel like, or I believe what happened is, we'll call it a phase one, right? So in their initial thing, they marketed and advertised this trail, and people were sold on that, and they were very happy with it. And then from the conversation I had, it seemed like the customer feedback on the very tail end of it was that people would prefer this kind of private lot with trees. And if that's what the customer wants, well, sure, then you can have that. We haven't built it yet, maybe we won't, I don't know. And then the fee in lieu came. So I know that first set wants the trail and needs the trail, and the thought was to wait, I think, until August, till...
Well, so, and that's, like I said, that's when we would probably bring the quotes to you. And like I said, that's, at that time, that's when council can decide if they want to move forward with the construction of it. But I agree, like, it's one of those things that my understanding from the conversation with the developer is that, once again, it was originally intended that the developer was building both the paved and unpaved portion. And so I believe they were marketing that as it was going to be constructed as part of their development portion. After they did the fee in lieu, it was all platted up front. That easement was there. It's similar to how other, in the preserve and other Tullamore, where we had those easements platted at the time of the subdivision approval. And so it's there. It's not like this is something completely new. I think the only disconnect was who was constructing it, and that's what changed back in 2024 when the developer decided to do a fee in lieu, basically because there were other residents in an adjoining neighborhood that had concerns over it. And so, and it was once again, an internal trail that wasn't connecting to any other development. So the council accepted that fee in lieu for, once again, I think the intent was potentially to use it for another portion, or, look to construct it at a later date if the residents did want it, so.
And I will share that while there's not an HOA yet to kind of do this formal poll, Angel and I believe we received data where they did do a survey, and at least at that point, there was a significant number of people that were in favor of the trail, and that was probably only about 2 months ago. I think part of the issue here is that some of the last remaining lots that are being built are some of the ones that are along that piece. What I think I can do as well is ask the folks, because we've seen them, they've come to numerous community meetings and village meetings in the past, but Sunil Kolil has been kind of headlining that effort, because he's one of those folks that said, listen, here's our brochures, here's where it shows the trail that we've been promised. But I'll ask him to try to reaffirm the results that they've had from the survey previously before our next meeting, to see if that, has changed in any meaningful way.
Well, let me ask a question, and I don't know the process, but would it be unreasonable for us to go through him to have a community meeting with the heritage people and find out exactly what they would like to have? And the people that are objecting, how do we mitigate their concerns? And can we mitigate it?
Some of the concerns that I've heard are, if people are walking the trail, they're going to have to park in their neighborhood because there's no parking on Meadowlark. They can't park there, so in order to actually do the trail, they're going to have to park in the neighborhood itself.
I don't even think that's a reasonable concern. I don't know of anybody that's going to go to that neighborhood and walk that tight neighborhood to enjoy the outdoors. I mean, it's just, let's be honest, it's 70 homes that are right on top of each other, and you're dodging cars and everything else. It's for the people there. And I'd like to solve it for the people that would like the trail. And I agree with John.
Well,
I think
the other
people won't.
The other thing Rob said is that they're going to be putting sidewalks in Yeah, so that they will have actual sidewalks that they can walk on, and not necessarily, if a trail is not built, there will be an alternative for them with regard to that. So, anyway.
Where are we at on build-out, Hunter, of that neighborhood? How much has been completed?
So, I mean, that's where I think the August comes from, is essentially those last 6 to 8 lots are close to being
Okay, so
completed.
it's down to like the last 10% of homes that need to be built?
For sure, yeah.
Okay, so,
Like,
so
they'll
the
go-
consensus you get would be a true consensus?
True, that, yes. And so ultimately, like I said, the developer will begin the closeout process with the village this fall. I'm not sure, because once again, temperatures and when they can then pay the final layer, it might not be until spring of next year, but ultimately, they can begin that closeout process when it's less, I think it's either 80 or 90% is completely built out. I would have to go double check on the engineer standards, but I know that is something that's forthcoming in the next month or two. So I just need, I mean, so how does council want staff to proceed?
Well, I disagree with Angel on delaying. I think it was, to just kind of sum up, I think a deal's a deal. I mean, we took the easement, we took the fee in lieu, and I don't think we should put it off. I mean, we've heard from a lot of folks that, you know, want to get it in, and they're saying, where is it? And if had we not taken the fee in lieu, it would have been done by now.
Correct.
So I don't think we should put off anything, at least, especially if it's going to be a while out. I mean, I wouldn't want to wait around and see what the HOA has to say a year and a half or whatever from now. I just don't think that's fair to the people who bought into it. I think there was going to be a trail.
And if I can say one last thing, the other thing, and I heard this come up, is regarding like screening or certain elements was somewhat of the concern. I'm working on that with the developer. I'm working on that with other opportunities through Habitat Builders and trying a planting event. We also, the village has trees that have been donated through the Arbor Day Foundation. So there's opportunities there that we can potentially fill in some of those gaps. But that's also part of the reason why we're looking to relocate, is to limit any of that disturbance on top of pulling it away from any of the back of the lots. Because there's like one section when it was platted that is kind of at the back of like 2 or 3 lots. And I think there's plenty of opportunity to bring it up towards our park portion to limit that visual from the proposed trail to the back of those homes.
Yeah, and I would add that as well, is that, whether we end up doing anything with it or not, keep in mind there is that 2.5 acre dedication that the village has for a public space there that would eventually be connected to the other areas within the Heritage District, so.
Well, if you can reach out maybe to that
I will.
resident, maybe do that, and then maybe we can revisit it at the next meeting and just see what they had to, because it's going to be a month from now.
But as far as for now,
Just continue.
Just
what you're
continue.
doing, and then, if we can get feedback, because I get it, a deal is a deal, but I am concerned that, so many people showed up last time and were like, oh, we don't really want it, so. I'd really like to hear from the neighborhood.
I should have at least one quote this week, and my goal would be to, like I said, probably have this either on the July, but if not by August, because we require at least 2 or 3 quotes. It's just, once again, it's kind of always the same old of getting those quotes from other vendors. But I'm
And
expecting
our July meeting's a little bit later this year.
So that'll give you time.
Is the trail kind of a closed system? It's kind of isolated, right? There's no real connectivity for people to want to drive over their park, and then, so it's contained. So it's probably a low-risk proposition that people would be parking on the street there and,
Yes. It kind of then goes into that greater vision of, once again, the reason why the asphalt portion's paved is because of our Greenway master plan and potentially having other connectivity to future, the Marvin Loop per se. But like I said, at this time, like there's no connectivity, and it's still, once again, to be determined on if and when greater connectivity will be there.
So does that need to be part of the conversation when you go back and talk to the people there to tell them kind of, look, it's not on the docket now to complete the loop because of funding and things like that, but could happen down the road? Is that going to be part of the setup here?
Yeah, and that's, that's part of the discussions that they've had with me already. And there has been some educating, even those folks, you know, because some folks even thought that it's a private trail. Well, even what's already there is already public, you know, so it was a surprise for some people to hear that, but when you dedicate, you know, an easement to the village as part of those developer agreements, that's part of what it necessarily does. So, I'll circle back with Sunil, you know, let him know the conversation now, and, you know, be able to report back at our next meeting.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next one. This is the discussion of the maintenance of the Tom Short Road roundabouts and medians.
Okay. So, I don't know how I got pulled into this one, but I did. So I got some emails from some Marvin Creek residents, as well as some of their board, asking if the village could help with maintaining the roundabout, medians, the entrance, you know, because we do it out here. And so we looked at the different agreements that there were between Tullamore and Amber Meadows and Marvin Creek back in '23. Apparently, what I've learned is that there was a gentleman who was in Marvin Creek who for 10 years maintained it all, basically. DOT, they're all DOT properties, and DOT comes out twice a year, maybe, and will deal with it, and not well at that. So if you go to one of our premier neighborhoods and you know, go to the entrance and then you see all the weeds in the median and then you see overgrowth and whatnot, that's thanks to DOT because they're just too busy and they don't have time. So I talked to the Marvin Creek president, HOA president, the Amber Meadows HOA president, and the Tullamore president. They have all agreed to put in money, if we can work with them, to help maintain the entrance off Ray Road, as well as the 2 medians, and then that one roundabout right across from Tullamore. We have gotten a quote for, it's $1,250 a month that would be divided either in a third, because Amber Meadows and Tullamore are only 44 houses each. So they may take a third, and then Marvin Creek would take a third, and then we would take a third if people are open to that. But I'm going to have Matt come out with me on Wednesday to see what our public works people can do, because my guess is they can be a lot cheaper just to maintain it. But my question to council is, how do you all feel? Because I don't want to go any further if you guys are like, no, we're not doing it.
So my feeling on this, you know, I know that we do handle the roundabouts here at Marvin Road, Newtown, Waxhaw, Marvin, and Newtown, and eventually probably the Bonds Grove. I think the distinguishing factor of those is those are all North Carolina State DOT roads. When you're talking about the ones that we're talking about here at Tullamore, you're talking about Village of Marvin roads, right? And while they're Village of Marvin roads, they're really within a neighborhood subdivision or combination of subdivisions. And my concern then is that we've got Village of Marvin roads and you're in my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So should Village of Marvin be paying in some way to be improving the entrance to our neighborhood? Or should they be paying to, you know, handle the front entrance of other neighborhoods? Because I think in some ways that's what you're really asking Marvin for the first time to get into, would be using village resources, whether it's paying, you know, a portion of the things that these other HOAs are, or, you know, or dedicating our public works people to do something. So I feel like it's a little bit of a slippery slope if we start going that way versus what we're doing right now, which are, you know, taking what would be kind of eyesores. You know, if you've been to South, you know, Union County, where off of 200, those are NCDOT maintained roundabouts. And that's why we stepped in and are beautifying those. I think it gets a little tricky if we start doing them to beautify the
Well,
entrances.
but those are also NCDOT maintained, that's what I'm saying, is,
If I may.
yes.
I agree with John here. You should not be spending public dollars on private property, first of all.
But they're NCDOT maintained too. the
But they're entries to neighborhoods, right? And if they're interested in that, they should work with DOT to do that.
Well, they've.
I can see us having an agreement with roundabouts because they do impact the approach, but we would have an agreement with NCDOT, or should, to maintain those. That's just my recommendation. It is a slippery slope to begin to spend public dollars for a particular neighborhood. Are you willing to do them all?
Would you guys like me to pull up a map? There is part of Tom Short Road is Village of Marvin Road, and part is NCDOT. I think it might be easier for everyone to visualize if I just pull up a map.
I think that quote sounds really high too. Like Weddington Chase, I want to say it's 125 grand a year we spend. We have 2 entrances covered with flowers. We've got the Cub House covered with flowers. We've got acres of grass. We have trails that get mowed and maintained, trees that get cut down, and maybe a mile of shrubs that have to be trimmed. It's less. So I think it could probably be brought down.
Well, especially if our people did it, because
I don't know how I feel about that, but I think getting a private company, I'm sure we could get that price down or come up with something that's lower maintenance for them to do at those places that could then be split. Like, we could help facilitate them getting a good quote maybe together, but I don't know that we should be involved.
So here's your stretch of Tom Short Road. Oh, laser pointer's not working. Well, kind of is. From the Marvin Creek roundabout to the roundabout by Tullamore to the entrance of Amber Meadows. Hunter, correct me if I'm wrong. I think our ownership is just from Marvin Creek roundabout to Tullamore roundabout.
That's correct. Basically, that darker portion is the portion that we,
just that little.
yeah.
Darker portion.
The rest of it is NCDOT maintained.
So the actual entrance, the actual entrances to the neighborhoods, a little laser pointer is not, there it is. There. So that's your entrance to Tullamore off one of the legs of the roundabout, and there's your entrance to Amber Meadows. So this here is a publicly owned road, but it's DOT until you hit the dark pavement right here. Then this becomes us.
And then it goes back to DOT.
Yeah, and it goes back to DOT at Marvin Creek.
Now, haven't we just, I'm going to defer to you, Austin, I know you're smiling. Haven't we, Hunter, visited this before when Tullamore and Amber Meadows they didn't want anything to do with all of the landscaping and stuff that was in the middle of the street, where you were showing with the red on the public, on the DOT roads, and they didn't want to take care of it anymore. And we've been over this conversation before about maintaining that, and we pushed away from it, right? And they agreed to take over?
So, from my recollection, basically, there's a lot of history with this portion of Tom Short, but yes, there was an original agreement with the village and Tullamore and Amber Meadows, and it was to maintain like those center medians and the plantings within that. That was revised 2 years ago, essentially because the HOA was like, why are we maintaining these? I think that we revised that agreement basically just to cover the roundabouts and the entry, and the village has no necessarily direct maintenance responsibility.
When this was one of those issues where we talked about it and talked about it and talked about it, but the HOAs, this is at least my recollection from the time, when out of maintaining the medians, the roundabout, there was a patch of grass, I believe, on the other side of the road.
On the other side, yep.
And we told them at the time, okay, we're going to let you out of this. It's not, the village is not maintaining this. Currently, it's going to be NCDOT, and it's not always going to look pretty. So that's what they signed going into it. So really, you're asking, are we going to take it a step further and the village take on that responsibility?
Well,
because
shared.
it's not, or do some sort of
Shared.
share.
Yeah.
If there is some sort of share, I'd recommend getting Chaplin to write a formal agreement between
Right.
multiple parties.
But again, I don't even want to continue this if you guys are like, no, I don't want to get involved in it, so.
Angel, I've got a couple thoughts. Number one, if I'm either in Tullamore or Amber Meadows, I'd like to think I'd take enough pride in my entrance to take care of it. That'd be number one.
I think, well, let me just tell you, I don't mean to interrupt you, but part of the reason Tullamore was taking care of their roundabout, and I think Amber Meadows, one of those medians just has to be sprayed for weeds. There's nothing planted there. But the problem became that there are only 44 houses, and it's a retired community, and so they had some other expenses, so they just couldn't continue to care for it because they had to spend other money on other expenses. So that's where this is coming from.
I'm in the neighborhood of 39 homes.
Yep, so you get it.
And we have to take care of landscaping, and we get to divide that cost by 39. But we also understand from a marketing perspective how our neighborhood looks from the street is really important. And it helps property values and so on and so forth. My question is, if we were to help them, that quote seems high to me. And the question I hope maybe you'll ask Matt when you're with him on Wednesday is, from the perspective of taking care of it, how long does it take to take care of it? And how much would it cost? I'm just thinking, instead of the HOA paying some outside third-party vendor, if Matt adds it to his schedule when he's doing the roundabouts over here and we do plantings over there, what would it cost the HOAs if Marvin were to do it? And if we can reduce their costs and accomplish what they want, and maybe help them that way. Because, and I understand their concern, but if we do it for their neighborhood, we just open a box up.
Yeah, and it's forever, right? And it's not just that stretch, but it's the precedent it sets for every other
Yeah.
HOA.
Can Weddington Chase get them to come and do ours?
Well,
also?
and,
You know what I
and
mean?
Marvin,
Well,
well,
another-
look at Marvin Creek, just to kind of give you an example, if you scroll down there, that big roundabout is something that we maintain on our own, and there's like a cleanup every year to like clean it up, and there are other stretches of Marvin Creek along Joe Carr that are owned by the village that Marvin Creek pays to take care of. So I wouldn't want Marvin Creek to come back and say, well, gee, we don't, why don't you guys why don't you guys clean up what you guys own in the first place? So.
Is there anything else you guys would like to see while I got the map pulled up?
Well, I remember, if you zoom in a little bit there where your mouse is, I remember having a meeting with DOT and it was like a kind of side topic that came up. We were talking about these dividers, the medians, and the roundabouts, and they were saying, well, when we build it, it's concrete, right? Because we don't maintain, we don't plant, we don't do any of that. Sometimes you'll get a developer that'll put a median in and they'll, put some bushes and trees and things and then give it to us, but that's not, we have no part in that. That's not authorized. We would never do that. So I would argue, that they could probably get with DOT if they don't want to maintain that and get it replaced with concrete. And there might be an upfront cost, but that would solve their problem more long-term. I mean, there's a roundabout down Newtown, right? That new one, that big one, the really oblong one, that's all concrete, and it doesn't really look great, but I don't know, the more you drive it, you don't really notice it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing then is that we'll find out what it will cost to have the village do it, and if it's reasonable, then we will not pay for it, but they can work it out that way. And maybe because if the village is involved, we're obviously not looking to make profit, so.
Yeah, I'd want to make sure that we understand if that's a legal thing for us to do, so I'd want to check
I'll
that
ask
out
Jeff about
first,
that.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'd be so much more comfortable, like, helping them get bids maybe for a third party to do it, rather than it being village employees. I feel like there's also some liability there if we have employees that are out doing these things, and I don't know, I'm very uncomfortable with village employees being involved.
Action item coming away from that. Angel, you're meeting with Matt to determine?
On Wednesday, yeah.
Okay.
Just one other aspect of the village actually doing that work. In some way, then, we're also, in a subsidized way, competing against the marketplace, because if we're offering a better price because we can do it cheaper, that's because it's being subsidized by taxpayers in general. And then we're kind of creating an unfair competitive playing field for any of the landscapers that would normally do that work.
Side question, would we, Hunter, I don't know if you know the answer to this, do we need an encroachment agreement to even touch these?
We would. We'd have to do a similar agreement, just like we have with these roundabouts with NCDOT. But that would be something, if we decide to move forward with having some type of maintenance responsibility, we could work on that with DOT.
One thing we didn't talk about is the entrance to Marvin Creek off Ray Road. That's always been,
Are you talking?
And that is not in our municipal limits either.
is that state?
It's-
Sorry, go ahead, sorry.
Well, so it's still maintained by DOT, but this is another thing that's come up in the past, and once again, I
Right
think,
up the intersection, I mean, literally the frontage of Ray Road, it's always a mess.
It's so bad.
yeah, and
Sign is
that's,
for Southern Spirits and all that. It's just
yep,
like-
and that's not in our municipal limits, and I believe that's where our attorney, and based off a previous conversation, once again, using our tax dollars to outside of our limits in that sense.
Just from the past, this is something that's came up multiple times in the past. Our boundary is somewhere just beyond the bridge. In the past, there was discussion of a cost share agreement between Marvin Creek, Tullamore. It might have been before Amber Meadows was closed out. I honestly don't remember. But at the time, there was not an interest from the parties because of the cost it would take to maintain the facade of that bridge and entryway.
Yeah, I'm glad Joe brought that up. And this, Hunter, this is totally off topic, but that's fine. The new shopping center at Tom Short and Ray Road, as part of that, are we requiring beautification of the islands down Ray Road in front of the shopping center?
So I don't necessarily have that answer. I know that there will be transportation improvements regarding those islands, regarding crossover, like turn access and stuff into Marvin Commons, but I don't know if there's any necessarily like agreement to landscape and beautify those
Well,
medians.
the reason I'm asking the question is, you know, as you leave Mecklenburg County, it's tree line, and as soon as you cross the Union County border, it's treeless. And as you go to Tullamore and Amber Meadows, it would be, and if we're going to have that shopping center there, it would be a huge opportunity to beautify going up toward the Tom Short Ray Road intersection.
So they'll have
And I
like,
would like to think we would address that.
yeah, so I mean, on the Marvin Commons property specifically, they'll have their landscape and hardscape along their road frontage of Ray and Tom Short. But regarding the medians, it's a DOT question. I mean, I don't think that they have any plans to enhance that. And that's something that we didn't require as part of their conditional zoning approval. But I can look into it.
Right now, there's a private contractor that comes out there, I think, once a month on,
Yeah.
on zero radius and just hits them with commercial mowers and, you know, but they just cut. They're not doing a lot of trimming along the concrete, or it's kind of a,
And that's,
kind of shoddy.
Well, and I know Marvin Creek, they have volunteers that have been stepping up and trying to beautify that whole area, but that's not sustainable for them, so.
where it gets tricky is our municipal boundary in that area. I do think if we if when you came from Mecklenburg County into Union County and all that was the village of Marvin, we could be doing something similar like we're doing at these two roundabouts with DOT on a maintenance agreement to maintain those on a more routine basis. But with it being outside, like I said, now you kind of have a portion of it, but you still don't have a contiguous boundary on each side of Ray Road. So.
And part of Marvin Commons, I think, is also improving and extending the turn-in lanes.
Correct.
On Ray Road. So you may be even kind of competing with, the turn-in lanes that they're going to need to guide traffic versus anything, like
And
a
I
nice median or
understand that,
things.
And I totally understand that, but as people come, it's hard to visualize what Marvin is geographically. You
Yeah.
don't know if you're in it or you're out of it. But when you cross Union County and you're coming toward Marvin, if we have the opportunity to beautify the entrance to Marvin, why wouldn't we take advantage of it? Or why wouldn't we ask the question?
Just want
Be my only question.
to note, we're a little off topic. You guys would need to amend the agenda if you want to keep this conversation going.
yeah, no, it's all good talk. You need action items for these roundabouts, though. We were in the middle of it, and then it went off. Do you have what you need, or do we need to?
Angel's going to meet with Matt, and we're going to go from there.
And I'm going to ask Chaplin about it, too. Yep.
All right.
I think we got what we need.
Yep.
Okay,
And
all right,
Mr.
great.
Mayor, I'd
Yeah.
request I be excused.
Oh.
I've got a,
Yeah.
is that how that works, Austin?
I got a hard stop at 12:30
You need
myself.
a motion to excuse Councilmember Eck at 11:10 a.m.
So moved.
moved.
Thank you,
All
sir.
those for?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, Tom, have a great day.
Bye, buddy.
Good to see you. Okay, Section L, new business. Consider the adoption of the resolution of accepting a paved multi-use path and roads in the Broadmoor at Marvin subdivision.
Yeah, so this is part of our closeout process. So Beechwood, the developer for Broadmoor, has submitted a street acceptance petition to basically for the village to take over their roads. This requires basically them to do a punch list of any necessary repairs to the asphalt, concrete for curb, sidewalk, and make sure everything complies with the original approval. All of the work has been completed. The final layer has been installed. And our engineer has reviewed and approved or recommended approval of this. So essentially, what's in front of you is a resolution to accept the roads into our maintenance system. So then we would get them updated on the PAL bill map for the submission coming up in July. We would also be accepting the paved multi-use path that's along the frontage of Waxhaw Marvin and a portion of Stacy Howie there. And then there's a second part of that motion that there is a bond that is held instead of a full release. We are requesting that it's just reduced to $71,315.63. Essentially, there are 6 lots at the back of the subdivision, or 7, that are custom built lots. 3 of them are currently under construction, and 2 of them are under contract and would be permitted. The road's already paved back there, but the sidewalk is not installed in that portion. And so and we actually just did this with one of the other lots that just completed last week. Our engineer has, we both have discussed this, essentially what that remaining bond amount is to cover any asphalt damage and that sidewalk for some reason if they didn't complete it. But we basically are holding any COs until those lots install that sidewalk in front of it. So that's kind of the gist, summary of this request. And then Sammy with Beechwood Homes is here as well if you have any specific questions. But other than that, it's just kind of normal process for the village.
Anybody have any questions? Can I ask an off-topic question that deals with this neighborhood? Remember the 2 trees that were cut down? The stumps are still existent, and I think they're a hazard. If someone runs off the road, they're dead when they hit it.
So
Can we level those?
That I would have to make that request to DOT. It's outside of it's within the right of way. DOT is the ones that cut those down last year when it was brought to our attention and that they were dead. But I can reach out to DOT to see if those stumps will be removed.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're just high enough that if someone went off the road, it would not end well. So I every time I pass them, I notice that.
My only, I'm not an engineer here. My only thought is potentially I don't know why it wasn't removed in the first place. It could have been concerned that the root system could potentially jeopardize the road. I don't know. I mean, DOT, sometimes they just do the bare minimum. But I'll reach out to them to see what they can do.
Yep. Okay, very good. Let's see here. L2, the discussion. I'm sorry. I beg your pardon.
You would need a motion to approve the street acceptance petition and adopt a resolution to assume maintenance of the publicly dedicated multi-use path and all the roads within the Broadmoor at Marvin subdivision and reduce the bond amount to $71,315.63 to cover miscellaneous closeout items.
All those for?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you. L2, the discussion of Marvin Ridge High School anniversary and achievements. John?
So I wanted to bring this and just make sure everyone, was aware, but this is the 20th anniversary of Marvin Ridge's middle and high school being built. Along with that, I've been blessed, and many of us have, to bring 5 kids all through the middle and high school. And I was thinking it might be a good time for us to kind of help them celebrate this achievement of 20 years, but also some of the particular achievements that they've had this year in their 20th year at the high school. They've won a number of different state championships. They have continued from a scholarship perspective, academic perspective. We've been averaging over the last couple of years more than $25 million in scholarships to our students each year. So I think it would be nice if we could put a proclamation together recognizing the good works going on there at Marvin Ridge High School. The one thing about Marvin, and Marvin and not Marvin, there's plenty of people that aren't in Marvin that go to those schools, but other than private schools and things like that, pretty much anyone in Marvin that is in Marvin does go to, is zoned for that school. So I'd like to, I've already reached out to Matt Lasher, who is the principal of Marvin Ridge High School. He's getting me some information and put me in connection with the athletic director to get some of their athletic accomplishments. I also reached back out to him because I don't want it to just be focused to athletics, but also we have great programs with our band, our choir, our theater that get all sorts of recognitions every year. So I'd like to recognize them all for the things that they've accomplished in this 20th anniversary and perhaps put a proclamation together we can have in place before the new year, the new school year starts in a couple of months here.
And John, if you can include me on those emails, I'll get that written for you, and we can once it's done, I'll have the mayor sign it, and we can push it out.
That's a great idea. They're also the county seat for the IB program, International Baccalaureate program. So a lot of good stuff going on over there. So does that require a motion on that? No, we just all, good, thanks, John.
Yeah, more just authorization to get Austin involved,
Yeah.
staff to work on something and work with the folks over at the schools.
Yep. Okay, Section 3, we're going to discuss the potential legislation to address abusive public records requests. So that was Tom's baby.
I think Tom asked that we table that till the
Okay.
next meeting.
So could I get a motion to table that to the July 13th regular
moved.
meeting?
All those for?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
L4, this is Fred's baby, the discussion of tech modernization solutions.
Yeah, so in many ways, I feel like we don't operate in 2026, and it causes me frustration, and this is kind of selfish for my own not to have to be frustrated, but I'd love to help be part of the solution. So the first thing that comes to mind is when we do have people come for public comment, oftentimes there's a need to follow up with them, and it can be very difficult to get in touch with them. So I have a kind of tech solutions company, and my thought was to just provide this at no charge whatsoever to the village and create some custom solutions for Austin, namely a digital means of people signing up that fit whatever parameters he'd like, and then we'd be able to capture like an email address, a phone number, a way to follow up with people, perhaps even a tracking system if people want that. But a lot of the solutions that exist come packaged with other things and have high price tags, and they aren't necessarily complicated. So I'd be happy to provide those at no charge, possibly even something that would help with FOIA requests, because I know that's something that hurts all of us, and we've had some constituents mention that there might be human error in some of these, so having a bot just kind of comb through and remove that human error might be helpful for everybody. So again, this would be at zero cost to the village.
Love it.
So I know Austin, last couple of budget cycles, there's been some different softwares that I know when it comes to capital improvement plans and stuff like that, we have had to push to the back and unprioritize. I know some of them dealt specifically with searchable records database and things like that. Some of the capabilities within our email system to be able to. What are some of those things that you've at least identified in the past that we may need to focus on again as we kind of prioritize, our spending, of course, but, given the state of things, in terms of FOIA requests and other things that we can at least start to plan for. And is that, Fred, kind of what you're talking about? I know you're talking about kind of a simple login system there. When it gets into searchable databases, that's a little bit more involved, but.
So from past years, the software I've talked about pretty much every year is called Laserfiche. And the base of that software is electronic internal record storage and retention. So records get introduced, they're filed digitally automatically, they're searchable, findable, they're assigned retention periods, so you're notified when you are allowed per the records retention disposition schedule to dispose of them. That base software has multiple add-ons, one of which is public comment sign-up. Another one is called Just FOIA, which is for record requests, which is like a workflow process for a web form and intake, routing to departments, pulling those records in if combined with Laserfiche itself, a redaction process that would be not completely automated, but would be a lot less intensive on staff. So that's what we've talked about in previous years. The setup cost for the core Laserfiche itself has been the higher price tag. The add-ons are not as bad. I am all in favor of any sort of technology to make things easier, so.
No, I appreciate Fred's offer, but I've got a question about conflict of interest and not using a third party to collect data versus a council person being involved to collect data. And that concerns me a little bit. I mean, I love the free offer, and I understand the need for technology, but I don't want to put us, the council, in a position of where we have a council person's company collecting data that may impact or not impact any of us, and the perception among people out there might be not very positive. And so that's where I appreciate your offer, but I would rather spend the money on a third party.
Would you guys like me to check with Chaplin? I have no problem having a call in.
That'd be great, because my concern may not be real.
Just so I could better understand that concern, Bob, you're talking about collecting the data from like public comment pieces or?
Well, not just public comment, but the FOIA requests and so on and so forth, what Fred was talking about, I believe, right? So I'm just concerned that with all the litigation that goes on in our little village of Marvin, and the perception of, correct or incorrect, the perception that people are doing things covertly, I just don't see it.
Well, correct me if I don't understand, in the interest of full disclosure, my previous company that I used to work with did sell Laserfiche. I've never sold it myself or anything like that, but I am familiar with the product. But when it comes to retention schedules, all of those things, is that, currently, I'm not sure, is it a third-party hosted app? But when it comes to retention schedules and things like that, those are all parameters that the village sets based upon our attorneys.
Well, we have an adopted schedule that comes down from the state that we are able to add local policy to. Any sort of software solution that we would be involved, that we would implement in the future, we would want full control on our end. It would not be automated deleting or anything like that. It would be very explicit retention periods put in. With Laserfiche, you get notified of when a record is eligible to be disposed of. It does not dispose of it for you.
So I guess the question, though, still is, the data itself, the underlying data, remains the Village of Marvin's data. It's just we're using kind of an architected software system, to be able to manage that data. So.
And you would maintain.
Correct.
You would maintain and you would retain that data according to the closest record type identified within the retention schedule. So any electronic records accumulated through public comment signups, you would find the closest thing to that in the record retention schedule and apply that standard to it, or we would contact the state archives for guidance, just for record retention purposes.
I tend to think of those things, typically they may be a little bit more work on the front end from a data perspective, but there are a lot less work on the back end in terms of managing the data, just to kind of add that.
I mean, aren't we technically using a third party on a small scale with like Google Drive?
No.
We're not storing
don't-
anything on that? Or it's just a transference of information for you when you
The only
need
thing
it?
I use Google Drive for is just to share record requests with, with people who request them, because a lot of the times I get a massive amount of files that you can't email, and so I just use that as a quick transfer. It's a
Mm-hmm. Got
digital-
it.
it's a
So it's a
digital flash.
transfer
It's-
portal for you?
It's a
Okay.
digital flash drive, yeah.
Got it.
And then I take the files down once they're transferred, so no concerns there.
I mean, fair point. I had kind of thought about that, and kind of one of the impetuses for this was like, for the corporate folks, if somebody in your corporation wants to know emails you've sent or something like that, like they don't ask you to go look for it. They just go get them, right? And that would be awesome, I thought, if a record request came in and it could just be retrieved without even bothering us, right? Like that would be kind of ideal. And especially to have that automated, you need a human in the middle, right, is what it's called. You still need that human in the middle to go through them and make sure that it didn't make an error or there isn't some privileged information in there, but it would just bring that process into 2026 and allow that all to be almost instantaneously accessed. Happy to go further. First thing was just like the digital sign up, but I am happy to tackle those other things. Categorizing and indexing all of the records is super easy to do in 2026 with AI. It knows what every PDF is. It knows what they're all about. And even when you go forth and you're like, when was the first time that this easement was ever mentioned in this neighborhood from 15 years ago? And AI would instantly know this was the first time it was mentioned, and this was the first document, and here are all the other documents it appears, and here's all the minutes where people talked about it, and just instantly it's at your fingertips.
The biggest question that usually comes into play is, do you do just day forward or do you go back? Because if you do day forward, you're limiting a lot of the costs that are involved in it. Where the costs that build up is if you want to start adding all the records that you've had over the last, you'd have to pick a period, 2-year, 5-year, 10-year. And it might be document specific, but that's where a lot of the work and burden comes in feeding that system is whether you're just going to handle it for day forward or whether you're doing, backward.
Just for the sake of disclosure, I did get a quote in the past for the cost to digitize everything physical in the building that may or may not be electronically kept. And we were recommended to authorize and not to exceed $100,000. And that's after we did a extremely thorough review of records. And we reviewed every physical record in the building a couple years ago, and we probably were able to reduce our physical records by 70-80%, and it was still coming in that high as a not to exceed. And a lot of that cost comes from irregularly sized documents, large plats and plans.
Things that are state-owned.
Yeah. But we've had, I believe, 2 companies now give us quotes on that, and it was both $80,000 to $100,000 not to exceed.
Was the Laserfiche that you're talking about, was that the 27,000?
I'd have to honestly, I wouldn't even feel comfortable saying so because I would want to get a new quote. It's just been
Okay.
it's been too long,
Okay.
and I would guess it's probably increased at this point.
Okay.
And that's a regular subscription cost.
It is. There is
Not
a
necessarily you just buy it, you own it then.
I do know I think originally my last quote was 27,000. That was including your setup and your setup cost. That's not digitization. That was purely setting up the system and implementing it. The annual subscription, I want to say, was $9,000 or $10,000. So your more reasonable range for municipal software. It's still a lot of money to consider. So if there is a cheaper or free alternative that Chaplain wouldn't have an issue with, I'm all ears.
Maybe we should consider looking into it again.
Say again?
Maybe, because I hear what you're saying, Fred, about just the frustration. Maybe we should consider looking into a solution of some kind.
I'm already planning just to go back and get updated quotes on everything this fall because I'm going to put it back in your CIP for next year.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I mean, if it drives value, saves labor, and ultimately saves money over time, it's just that $100,000 price tag may give you a sticker shock. But if you amortize that cost and the savings you get from using the tool, it makes it make more sense.
It's an investment.
Yeah. Okay, very good.
Can can I have like exploratory talks this week about solutions we could provide the village?
I don't think you
Yeah.
need a motion, but let me reach out to Chaplain.
See.
I'll include you, and we'll go from there, and then I can bring it back to the next meeting. And we would want you guys to sign off on anything before we do a single thing.
Okay.
So,
Okay, the next item is the discussion of the Preserve at Marvin Trail issues.
Okay, so I wanted to get y'all to give me the okay to work with Chaplain on an agreement with the Preserve. Primarily, it's to talk about indemnification of the trail that they've requested, and also to address a couple of the safety concerns that they have. So if you guys are okay with that, then I will start talking to Chaplain about it.
Yeah, and just to segue how we got here, I've walked the trail, Bob's walked the trail with me, with Kristen Conway. You guys have heard, there was a debate about, they may sue in order to get their easement back or their trail back. They don't want to go down that road. What they do want to do is mitigate and eliminate some of the concerns they have on privacy and access to it. So they have a couple asks. One ask is they don't want the connectivity to our village parking lot with that aspect of the trail, and they don't want any connectivity to any type of commercial entity. Those are two very, very important things to them. 3, they do want some privacy screening near some homes for trees. They do want to be indemnified. And some of these are really fair asks, in my opinion, but we want to discuss it as a council here, and because there were genuine concerns on some of the security issues that people were feeling with the type of access that is granted on those trails. So as a segue, maybe it warrants a greater discussion, but that's kind of where they're going with this. They don't want to litigate anything. They don't want to challenge in court the validity of easements and how trails were drawn and things like that. They want to cut to the chase and find a solution that keeps everybody out of court. So hopefully that helps with a little bit of context.
Sounds like a positive discussion to have.
Yep, and we could do it with a fairly reasonable budget. It's the indemnification piece.
Yeah.
And we would maintain, they are asking that we maintain those trails as well.
Yeah, just one thing I know we've run into before that we have to be careful of is if we're doing any landscape enhancements, they have to be done on our portion of the easement. Sometimes people think it's easier if you do it
Closer to the property
closer to
line?
their property
Yeah.
line or things like that. But we cannot, once again, it comes back to that thing of, using public monies to improve private properties. So I just want to make sure that because we've run into that same issue with the park and other places as well. And I know, Hunter, you've discussed that before. Am I correct there, just to?
Yeah, we have a 30-foot easement. It's 30 feet. Past 5 feet wide. There may be opportunities to plant within that easement, but once we're outside of that easement, it's always been recommended from our attorney and standard practice that we haven't paid or given trees to be planted on private property. So.
Yeah, the other thing is keep in mind when you're talking about trying to do screening like things like that, on a natural trail, you're typically in a situation where you're talking about understory type things, because you're not going to get, if you're planting things out there, you typically don't have water, to be able to get them to grow initially, but also they don't get very much sunlight. So oftentimes you end up putting things out there that aren't necessarily going to thrive in the way that you think they might provide screening in other
Yeah, it sounds like
areas.
species management of what you actually put there is going to be really important.
Yeah.
And one other bone of contention that I think I should just put out there, some of the trails on the plat from what they say, are not consistent with what the original plan was. So there are drawings of yellow line where they actually installed the trail, but it was next to or outside of the lines of what's actually on paper. So if we do go down this road of installing things, we want to make sure that we're putting it in the right place based on the default accurate plat going back to, I'm not sure which year, 15 or 2014. So that's just another side note I wanted to point out, that when we do it, it's very important what species we use, but also exactly where it is we actually plant these things if we go down that road.
Do we have a survey that, like recently, that shows exactly where the
I
trail was
actually-
put?
We do.
I actually walked it with her a couple days ago, and I have an idea of where they want the screening, and we can get it on our property. I'm not worried about that, so, and it's not a big area.
So I would like to add, so the areas where it was outside of the platted easement, the HOA in 2022 granted relocations of those portions, so that was documented. Something we were working on with the previous HOA board prior was actually to, once again, get all these agreements and everything kind of in one document. Since the trail's been constructed, we do have a survey of the final as-built of where the actual trail's located. And so the goal was to actually have this new agreement with the HOA that basically redefines the easement as, 15 feet center line or however language we want. I think we even potentially looked at reducing the actual easement width just because the trail's already been constructed. Once again, it was 30 feet on the plat just because it gave the village an opportunity to meander and kind of, weave around any of the existing vegetation. But now that the trail's constructed, we had it surveyed and we were looking to basically have a new agreement to define the actual location per that survey and redefine the easement in that sense of width. So that just fell through when the HOA board changed over. But I have the document drafted and already reviewed by our attorney, and something that we could potentially look at as part of this to try to achieve as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Next section is open topics. Do we have any open topics people want to discuss? Okay, keep moving. We're going to review the list of action items.
All right, so I've got your two groups for the manager search, Angel, Bob Nunnenkamp. Angel, Bob Nunnenkamp, and Tom, and then Fred, Bob, Mark, Elise, and John.
No,
Did I get those two mixed up?
yes.
So
it's-
Tom's in group 2, John's in group 1?
Yes.
I thought I might have those two mixed up. All right, so that's fixed. Let's see, we're going to start advertising the car show for Saturday, July 18th. I'm going to have the Heritage at Marvin Trail back on the agenda for the July meeting. I have actually already sent the order off for the Houston Ross Park sign structures, 4 to 6 week turnaround times. We hope to get those in. Then we'll proceed with ordering the actual sign panels. Angel, you're going to meet with Matt this week regarding Tom Short Roundabout and medians, and we'll confer with Chaplin on that. Hunter's going to check with DOT on grinding down the stumps at Broadmoor. John is collecting information for a proclamation for Marvin Ridge. He'll send that to me, and then we'll get that done. I'm going to check with Chaplin, see if there is a conflict of interest, if Fred wants to offer his company services for free for some technology solutions. And then you guys are good with Angel having some preliminary discussions with the Preserve, just to see if we can get on the same page about
Chaplin.
and
With Chaplin.
with Chaplin.
Yeah.
Is that something he's aware of? Does he know?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure that we're like,
I want to make sure everybody was okay before I did it.
and then we can move towards maybe a final, better agreement.
Yes.
Cool. That's all I got.
Okay, great. And then the next section is the review of ongoing action item list.
Was there anything on there y'all wanted to review? We've taken a couple things off. One thing that might be worth noting is you may want to consider the Preserve Innisbrook connection, since you're talking about all these issues. You got the bridge there, and I don't know if that property owner is any more amenable than he was a couple years ago, but it might be worth
We haven't
considering.
reached out to discuss it any further.
Huh?
I said we have not reached out to discuss an easement there any further.
Okay.
So other than that, no, I think you're good.
And speaking about that property owner, is that the same one that was at Coffee with Council a few weeks ago, Tommy Whitehead?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I do know that he was at least at Coffee with Council, and
So the history there is Mr. Whitehead was actually going to grant the easement to the village. The neighboring property sold during that process. Mr. Whitehead wanted to be a good neighbor, and even though the easement was fully on his property, wanted to let his neighbor just be aware of it. His neighbor had concern of it. This is all when I started. And so therefore, Mr. Whitehead decided not to grant the easement at that time just because he was, respecting his neighbor's wishes in that sense. But I'm not sure if his neighbor is still the same neighbor. I believe it is, but it's something that we can have a further conversation. I will say I met out with one of the HOA representatives from Innisbrook a few weeks back, and it's my understanding that, and I'm surprised I've not been, anybody at the village has been contacted about this, but it's my understanding that there are Innisbrook residents that are, walking down there to hit that bridge anyway, but I've never heard a complaint from either property owner each side. We just don't have it's not advertised, it's not paved, there's not any type of surface material there. But like I said, there is the connection there on the other side of the preserve where then it would lead to.
yeah, I was just pointing out that the easement holder of that, particular connection is still amenable, to doing it.
I think we can move on to council comments. Go around the horn. You want to go first?
Sure.
Do the honors.
The only comment really is maybe just the back pocket this, and maybe mull it over the coming weeks, maybe not doing Coffee with Council anymore. I think we're all pretty accessible, and I think if we can come up with a better system of recording the people who come for public comments for follow-up later, it might be more efficient than the Coffee with Council that not everyone can attend.
No comment.
I would agree, Fred. That's it.
I just want to say to staff, this is the first week without Christina being here, and I'm so proud of you guys for being so poised and just going about your business and doing what you do. Lehman, I want to welcome you and thank you for being the interim of the interim. Stay as long as you like. And so, yeah, in a time of transition, I want to thank you guys for that. So thank you.
Yeah, I want to echo what Joe said to staff, that this week has been very smooth, so thank you all.
Yeah, I look forward to the meetings that we'll have with the new candidates once we get that posted today. I'm glad we are putting together a process in terms of the evaluation of those candidates and things like that, and a good procedure. And just want to thank our new interim for the moment. And Bill, hope you feel well soon. And beyond that, one thing about council comments, I really don't mind the council with comments, the Coffee with Council. Even if people don't show up, I find that I do get valuable interactions with staff. It kind of gets me here oftentimes, maybe once a month, otherwise outside of meetings to check my mailbox just to make sure. So, I do also often, if I have Coffee with Council coming up, so in a way, I do think it's always valuable to still have that outlet out there. And, for as many hours as we do put in a month, I find I do get value out of that hours in other ways as well. But thank you.
Great. I think that concludes that, and we can make a motion to basically adjourn if no one has anything else they want to.
So moved.
All those for?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you very much. We are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.